Hey, today I am not in my pajamas. I'm actually dressed because I had to go in public. So, but I wanted to talk to you about what is success. Because people have been asking me a lot lately about, getting paid to write, as I wrote in the column today. But for me, success is validation. And I think people feel successful if they have some sort of validation about what they do for a living. And usually that translates into money, unfortunately, in our society. But we also tend to look for validation from other people. Oh, she's a great writer. She's great at this. He's great at that. We tend to want that praise from other people. Maybe it's because we wanted it from our parents when we were kids. I don't know, but we've always looked for it from other people. But what if you gave yourself that validation? What if you decided, I am a writer and my writing is good and this is worth pursuing, even if I'm not getting paid yet or right now? Or what if I never got paid? What if I never got paid for my work? Does that make this screenplay any less good? Did it take away the enjoyment that I got from writing that script in the first place? If we're going to write and pursue a screenwriting career, or even if we want to write a novel, whatever it is that we're going to write that we want people to sit down and pay for and sit and open and read, we need to at some point recognize that maybe no one will ever pay for this. I mean, this isn't art. This is, we're creating art here, and we're creating an experience, an emotional experience for people. So maybe we never get discovered and we're not paid for it. So you've got to figure out what you want to do and how you can find value and validate yourself while you're on the journey. Because it's not just the finish line, it's the journey. This is one of the things being a black belt definitely taught me is, all along the way, you get beaten up, kicked, bones broken, all that stuff. And that's not what it's about. It's about never giving up. And it's about being there in the end when they hand you that belt. So the path of a writer is very similar to that of a martial artist or a marathon runner or, people who train for something gigantic. You've got to find little milestones along the way to keep you in the game. And I think for me, declaring I was a writer was for sure one of the things that really helped validate me and helped me validate myself and help me stay in the game. And I remember that moment. I'm sure most of us have full-time jobs. Of course, if you're not getting paid, you probably have a job while you're doing this on the side. So I'm not unlike you, I had a job, and I was at this trade show for the company I was working for at the time. And I was answering this woman's questions. She came up to me to our booth and she was asking me all these questions, and she was a lovely, lovely woman. I'm answering her, I'm responding. And I said to her in making conversation, So what do you do? I'm trying to gauge her. What do you do? And she's like, oh, I'm a writer. I'm just covering this event. Sorry about the dimming. I sat there and I thought, well, actually the dimming was appropriate because that's sort of the way I felt like inside. Like somebody had just extinguished my light. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was choking inside. Because I am a writer. I'm sitting there talking to this woman who's a writer, and I wanted to scream out to her, I'm a writer too. And I couldn't because I was being professional and doing the job I was being paid to do, to be there for. But when I came back from that, that's when everything changed. That's when the whole game changed, because I thought to myself, I am never going to be in that position again. I'm never going to feel like I'm not being honest in what I am in defining myself. So I started working on my blog more and taking it more seriously. I started tweeting out, asking people, does anybody need a guest blogger? And because I felt to be validated as a writer, I needed to have my work out there on more than just my blog, my own platform. So what I did was when I would guest blog for people, I would say to them, in exchange for money, could you give me a recommendation on my LinkedIn page? And so they would go onto my LinkedIn page and leave me a recommendation as a writer. She submitted on time. She was professional. She stayed within the word count that I gave her and the instructions that I gave her. And those recommendations were written about Jeanne, the writer. and not about any of those other credentials that I had on my resume. And that helped validate me. And the other thing that it did was it provided me with published clips that I could put on my website. So there's a tab on my website, jeannevb.com, where you can see published clips. And so, they were book reviews, there were articles on rewriting. I mean, whatever they wanted, I wrote. And then because I had those published clips, I was able to then use those when I was querying for freelance articles to eventually get paid. And I write on my website an article called Write or Die. And it's about that moment where I got my first check for writing a freelance piece. And it happened to be for Writer's Digest, because I met the then publisher, Jane Friedman, online on Twitter. And that's how we developed our relationship. And don't tell them, but I totally would have written that piece for free. I was so excited, but that's okay. And I don't mean, when I talk about writing for free, I don't mean to say that, or even imply that our words aren't valuable and that we shouldn't be paid for our words, because we should be. But there's a process of getting there. There's it's a whole process. It's like a lot of people in Hollywood who are trying to break into studios. They become interns, and they do that for free, but they learn a ton. And, whether interns are abused and all of that kind of stuff is a whole other discussion and a whole other topic. But I'm just saying that sometimes in life, you have to just suck it up and do stuff for free in order to get your foot in that door. Do I write for free now? Not often, but if it's still a good platform where I think that would give me great exposure, I would certainly consider it. I mean, no question. I mean, there's still value in that. But one of the things I want to leave you with is back to what I was talking about at the beginning, as defining for yourself what validates you and what you're willing to do and how far you're willing to go. And that we're creating art here. We're moving people with our words. Remember that those great artists, those really incredible, great painters, often were never made a living at what they did. They weren't paid for what they did. It was after they died that their true talent was realized, and people started paying like these insane amounts of money for their work. And, and I'm not saying that we have to die to find value, but just remember that these people did it. They created their art because they loved it, because it was like air that they were breathing. And so every time I write a blog post, every time I write a Balls of Steel column, anytime I put my words, even a tweet, even putting a tweet out there, I'm being validated by people's reaction. If they had some sort of emotional reaction to whatever it was that I wrote, that's where I find my validation. And so whether I get paid or I don't get paid, I will always, forever, consider myself a successful writer, especially if I've moved you with my words. So that's my 2 cents. So in the comments below, feel free to talk about whatever makes you feel validated and help people recognize how to find validation in their work. We would love to continue the discussion in the comments. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next Balls of Steel.